birds flying high. You know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.
An unbelievable finish at Dover has set a high bar for drama in this series. We've only had 3 events, and they've given us each wildly different races. Homestead is known for putting on a good show, so can it live up to the hype? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series, presented by Jam Printing and Promotions. You'll see it all live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Eddie Smith, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, Joey, this should be a good one regardless, because, I mean, you can run low, you can run high. This is a wide open track.
Yeah, Miami Homestead Speedway. It's quite a bit different than the 3 tracks that we've gone to already this year. The first mile and a half that the drivers are truly going to face today, and I think you hit the nail on the head. There's tons of racing room here at Homestead. Whether it's all the way up top around the wall or taking the short line around the paint, you can really approach it a couple different ways, but guaranteed we're going to see 2, 3, and sometimes even 4 wide.
Should give us quite a bit of excitement, or at least we're crossing our fingers that that'll be the case. Let's take a look at the schedule for this one. As like we said, we've had Daytona, 2.5 super speedway. We've had Phoenix, 1 miler. Well, then another 1 miler, but it's more steeply banked with Dover. And this one, kind of the same thing as Dover with the steep banking, but much longer on the lap with 1.5 miles around here. So they're definitely keeping them on their toes. And then, of course, we're going road racing next time out at Watkins Glen. So that should be a lot of fun when we get to go both left and right. But we do have one of our drivers ready to talk to us who's had a bit of a mixed season so far. We've got Patrick Drabick ready to talk with us about how things have been going in the first three races and what he expects here out of racing at Homestead, Miami. Patrick, I can see you're still getting some practice in. Do you feel like you need it here? Do you need the extra time?
No, I feel pretty comfortable here. It was a couple seasons ago. I actually won my first Truck Series championship here at Miami Homestead, and so I love the track. It's got a lot of different lines. It's fun to kind of move the truck around a little bit, figure out where's fast, where's a little bit off. I think we're in for an exciting race tonight.
Now, you finished a little bit better at Dover than you did at Phoenix, managing to come home in seventh. But we're showing you as third in the warm up. I know it's just practice, but does that give you some encouragement that you're looking forward to some good results tonight?
Absolutely. You know, the start of the season's been a little tough here for the Jam Printing and Promotions 017, but we got a lot of speed in the truck here tonight. I got a lot of confidence. Just been trying to slow some things down a little bit, focus on my racecraft, and the results are starting to pay off. It does feel good to be up there, P3 on the leaderboard right now. So I think we're going to be fast here tonight.
Well, lastly, let's go over some of the more superficial stuff. We've been noticing your rig here. You've got that really cool lighting behind you. Doesn't that cause glare on the screen?
It doesn't. So I'm a race fan through and through. I kind of geek out on certain things. So what you're seeing behind me is actually an Xfinity nose. It
Oh.
came off the 07 car. So I actually won an Xfinity championship in a Chevy Camaro 07. So I had to get the 07 nose that's behind me. I've actually got the bumper off the same car that's in front of me, and you can't see above me, but I've actually got the roof off William Byron's Liberty University car hanging above me. And as you can tell, I'm wearing William Byron's Liberty University shirt today. So hopefully this one brings me some good luck.
All right. Well, we'll cross our fingers for you. Best of luck in the race, and we'll look out for you, sir.
All right. Thank you much.
That was Patrick Drabick, as we said, currently third in the warm up. We'll see where he finishes today here in Miami. We also have our, of course, veteran spotlight, and tonight's spotlight is Doug Ellingson. Doug served in the Army from 1980 to 1983 with the 11th Armored Cavalry Black Horse Regiment. During his tour with the 11th ACR, Doug performed the duties of a driver for the executive officer and conducted border patrols at the Fulda Gap in Fulda, Germany. He stood as a deterrent and the first line of defense against a possible attack by Soviet forces on Western Germany. Doug participates full time in every series at GLR, and the entire Ellingson family are staunch supporters of our mission. Thanks for standing the watch, Doug. Now let's take a look at the championship in the meantime here, Joey. We've gotten three races in now. Of course, they've got the drop week, so that's changed a little bit. But I'd say we're starting to get a feel for how things are going.
Well, and you look at basically the top three drivers. Those are the three drivers that have won a race so far. Cofield, well, he won at Phoenix, right? And then you have Cunningham, he won there at Dover, and Kostek won at Daytona. And how iRacing works is that we've had 3 weeks, and it includes 2 drop weeks right now. So it's kind of funny looking. Everything will kind of take more shape once we get a few more rounds under our belt. But right now, things are very close.
Absolutely. As for the car that we're racing today, it's sort of a car. It's a truck. So we've got the three different makes you can see to choose from: the Chevy, the Ford, and the Toyota. 650 brake horsepower under the under the hood of these machines. So they have a lot of grunt, but they are also very heavy. They're hard to slow down. With this being such a fast circuit, expect it to be difficult to avoid some of the accidents out there today. We're talking around a minimum speed of 150 through the corners, so they will get going around here. But we've talked about the trucks, we've talked about the championship. What about the track itself here, Joey?
We kind of touched on it. Homestead Miami Speedway, all the way down here in South Florida. Nothing but sand and marshland around here, so it is incredibly slippery. 18 to 20 degrees of banking. That means variable banking, a little bit less down low, a little bit more up top. trying to help induce all of those multiple racing lines that we're going to see. And it is the first mile and a half, but a traditional mile and a half, not a D-shaped oval, not a quad-shaped oval, but your straight oval shape. It seems straightforward, but with all of the sand and the low grip here in South Florida, it throws drivers for a constant loop. You constantly have to be searching for the grip around this place.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to see drivers try and move around a little bit as the dynamic track is out there too. So you could see it rubber in a little bit one way over the other over the course of this event. As for this event, it's a little bit shorter than what we saw the past 2 weeks at only 100 laps. And you can see they still have those 2 green light checkers attempts if we wind up with a late yellow out here. However, there are no spare cars, so if you see drivers getting damaged, they're going to have to duck in and get it repaired and hope that it's quick enough to keep up with the pack around here. It is a custom fix setup, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the broadcast with a full 100% fuel available. It usually means they need at least 1 pit stop to make it to the finish. And they have 3 sets in the pit, so 4 total tire sets to try and get them to the finish of this race. With it being in the evening, hopefully it won't wear the tires as much, being slightly cooler out here tonight than what we saw at Dover, but this is still a fast track, so they could use them up quite a bit as we're into the qualifying session. 2 laps to set a fast time. Chuck Phelps hopefully hasn't been partying too hard since today is actually his birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Mr. Phelps out there. And you mentioned qualifying is just now starting. All of the drivers have 2 laps to put down their fastest lap time to set the grid for tonight's race as we watch Mr. Phelps go down the back straightaway here on the first of his qualifying laps.
Yeah, I see Cofield just put one in. He's on provisional pole, but we still have a lot of drivers left to go. Dravic actually is up to second here, but he's almost a 10th off of Cofield, so he'll need a good second lap to get up there and try and stay on that front row. Actually, Mullins just bumped him off, but Phelps crosses the line, and his first timed lap is only a 32.9, so he's a little bit farther down on that timing sheet. Again, 2 laps to try and go quickly. I have a feeling, since this is a track that's so flat out, that we're going to see drivers do their money lap on that second time.
I have a feeling too, and the other thing is a lot of these drivers right now, they're jumping out early in the session. They do have 5 minutes, so we're about halfway through that 5-minute countdown. Some of the drivers will actually wait just a little bit, see what everybody else puts down in terms of that lap time, kind of give them a carrot to chase.
I'm still waiting on Will Bethea, Regis Clark, Matt Knights, Ryan Pendleton. All of them still need times. Looks like Timothy Stubblefield, Kyle Plumstead all haven't set laps. A few of them looks like they are now crossing. Cofield still our provisional pole sitter by about a quarter of a tenth of a second over Kostek right now. And Ellingson, our highlighted driver, currently sitting in third. But Jeremy Gardner here is coming around to the start-finish line. What is this lap going to look like as he crosses? Looks like it's going to be only a 15th at the moment. I don't think he improved.
I'm showing on my screen Jeremy Gardner to the top of the board, a 32.262. So he snuck it in on pole position as we watch the number 92 of Timothy Stubblefield right now. And honestly, Joe, I'm not too surprised out of that white and red 42. He's been one of the fastest drivers in all 3 of the races.
Yeah, Gardner is regularly up at the top. Stubblefield with the interesting sort of, I guess, is that the kind of Dale Jr. way of holding onto the wheel there, off to the side, sort of cantilevered. And his first lap still underway here. This is his first flyer right now in that number 92, as he has not set a time, along with about 4 other drivers, I believe. So let's see what holds in store for him as he comes down the front stretch to the timing line.
32.668 is what I see. That slots him into the 16th place position on that first qualifying lap. It looks like Stubblefield will be able to do 1 more here with the time remaining.
And Matt Knights is still out there as well. So I only see Stubblefield and Knights able to set a time. Nobody else out on track. This is going to be too late into the session for them to complete a standard lap. Let's see what Timothy does second time around. 32.668 becomes a 32.416, 2/10 improvement. That will jump him up to ninth. And unfortunately for Knights, both of his laps get deleted. He must have brushed the wall.
Very, very common to do here at Miami Homestead, but as that happens, I think we are going to get our starting grid lined up because I'm looking at that timer. We are out of qualifying.
Indeed, we are. So, why don't we head through that starting order for today's round four here for the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series. And it is Jeremy Gardner who puts it on the pole with Jonathan Cofield starting next to him. Michael Kostek will begin in third as Trevor McManus starts fourth. And then the inside of row three sees Jacob Ellingson and the outside, Brandon Evans. Patrick Drabick manages to get himself into seventh. Regis Clark will be eighth. And then row five sees Timothy Stubblefield and Daniel Cunningham.
Then in row number 6, it's a George Jewell lined up alongside Jamie Mullins. In the 13th place position, we have Stephen McDonald. In 14th is Brandon Wallace in the 99. James Goshen rolls off in 15th with Mark McCrary next to him in 16th. James Kaufman in 17th. Charles Phelps, I should say Chuck Phelps, back there in the number 75. The birthday boy starting in 18th. Doug Ellingson and Alan Marshall round out the top 20.
Last four did not set a time in qualifying. Ryan Pendleton is followed by Kyle Plumstead. Will Bethay will be 24th, and then Matt Knights last of the field. Matt Knights, it looks like, will be scored 23rd, and Will Bethay in 24th. So this is a slightly smaller field than some of the previous races, it looks like, but should still be a good time as we wait for the rest of them to finish gridding up. They'll get a single pace lap and they'll be underway. This will definitely be in contrast to the first couple races because we saw some very high temperatures, Joey, and this one's only 77 Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's actually a really good point. So what that tells me as a driver, there's more grip available, right? You can go charging into some of these corners and you can kind of trust that the truck is going to kind of catch itself with that grip, those low temperatures that they have available. However, that also means more aggressive drivers on the racetrack. How aggressive do you be? How quickly do you eat up those tires versus sit back and save them for a long green flag run, which we've seen quite a bit here in the Goat Locker Racing Series?
Yeah, that's a good point because drivers did have to think about that, especially when it came to fuel. You think about last time out at Dover. We'll see if we get that again. While we're on the pace lap, let's give a big shout out to our sponsors, including Jam Printing and Promotions. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning. Local and veteran certified, when they do well, they do good in the community. So once again, a huge thank you to Jam Printing and Promotions as the drivers get ready, prepare the tires to get going here at Homestead Miami Speedway. Will we see that high line start to become preferred early? Or will we see drivers try to stay low and really open up that entry to get a nice wider turn there across the bottom? We'll find out pretty soon because the pace car now coming out of turn 4 will duck into the pit entry. We'll give control over to Jeremy Gardner. Cofield beside him. Can he do anything to keep him honest early on? Or will we see Jeremy start to run away? Green flag is out as we accelerate down towards turn 1. Pretty good jump there from 42, but the 53 as well gets good momentum.
Yeah, now we're going to see that 42 dive all the way down, take that short distance around, and he is going to clear Jonathan Cofield up out of turn number 2, but a big-time wiggle for Jeremy Gardner, and I see problems already. I think that's the 07 of Patrick Drabick. Hang on to it, bud.
Looked very loose off of turn 2. Something we'll have to note then. Wonder if this setup is a little bit sketchy as they start off under these colder conditions.
Yeah, the 27 almost went around himself coming out of turn number 4. It was just all by himself, very cool and cold like you're saying, and those tires, they are the same way.
underlining that note now. Car is loose. It's the start of stints here. So maybe they don't want to take those tires very quickly, or else be very careful when they come back out on track when they take tires in this race. Gardner ahead of Cofield, still up at the front. Battle for third behind them. That is Kostek ahead of Evans.
Yeah, but it's really the 53 putting all sorts of pressure on our leader of Gardner. He was really pushing him down the back straightaway, and then you see him all up under that spoiler going off into turn one, really forcing the 42 to drive it in deep into the corner.
That's McManus that we saw down on the exit lane from the pits. So he must have started from pit lane. Not sure if he had a connection issue or what. As now we go side by side for the lead. Getting underneath him, the 53 is going to take it away.
Yeah, is he going to clear him coming up out of four? Yes, he does. So to the point, Jonathan Cofield, your Phoenix race winner, says, I want the clean air. I want to dictate the pace of tonight's race.
And he's got it quickly. Behind them, it's still side by side between Evans and Kostek. Kostek on the bottom in the number 3 and has been holding on to that position for the most part, although at times the 39 does look like he's been eking ahead. But it seems like Kostek has been holding down that podium spot. We'll see what it looks like coming off the corner where the momentum usually helps out the high line.
It's been a pretty neck-and-neck fight between these two drivers ever since this green flag has dropped. It's been the 39 in the middle of the racetrack and the 3 kind of hovering down towards the bottom. The 3 gets a nice drive up out of turn number 2, but once again, that top line carries the momentum down the straightaway. Brandon Evans hangs tough on the outside, and now we see the 39 really arc it in more on the top side of the racetrack. He's moved from the middle up towards the top.
There's that exploration that you talked about, drivers trying to figure out what works best here. It's one thing to do it in the warm-up, in practice, but it's another when you're in the midst of the race and surrounded by a bunch of trucks, and that can affect the aero, the grip as well as the track evolves constantly. Brandon Evans still fighting hard from the outside. He's got better speed. Will Kostek give it up? Yep, he slots in behind.
Yeah, just barely got clear going into turn number 3, and the 39 immediately down to the bottom of the racetrack. And I'm actually pretty impressed to see Brandon Evans so far up in terms of track position. Remember, he's one of these drivers that likes to take it easy on those tires early on. Maybe a different strategy for the 39 tonight.
Talked about Drabic with his problem. He's still down in 13th or 14th. I think he just picked up a position. So he's slowly picking his way back forward, but I think he's taking his time after he used up a bit of it there, sliding off of turn 2. Right now, he's ahead of that battle between Goshen and Wallace. Looks like James in the 85 going to take P14.
It's a good little battle here between the 85 and the 99 for 14th place. Like you were saying, the 85 Goshen kind of slides a little bit wide coming up out of turn number 4. Brandon Wallace looking to the inside, also has Ryan Pendleton right in his back bumper as well. So you see the intensity, the concentration out of Brandon Wallace. And Joe, if memory serves me correct, Brandon is always one of these consistent drivers, doesn't always show out in qualifying, but throughout the race continues his pace forward.
Yeah, he certainly seems to prefer to put all of his weight into the race itself, even if qualifying isn't his strength, and it pays off quite handsomely as he gets back in line behind Ryan Pendleton now. Behind them, they've also got Feltz and Plumstead fighting for position. And it looks like also James Kaufman kind of throwing his hat into the ring.
Yeah, this is Kaufman, that bright blue and orange truck, blue and red truck, the 25 on the bottom. And it is Chuck Feltz right there on the top side of the racetrack. A good side-by-side, truck-by-truck coming up out of turn 4. And once again, that high line really prevails down the straightaway. Miami Homestead with that variable banking allows the runs going out of the corner, but then the short distance throughout the turn seems to be the faster way around too.
It certainly is difficult to kind of pick out which is the way to be at this stage. Down to the inside, the 22 of Plumstead is going to see if he can clear on Wallace. He is, if he wants to drift up, and that will allow him to block off the momentum potentially. Looks like Kaufman as well on the bottom side, picking up a bit of time through the corners on Wallace. They'll be neck and neck down the front stretch.
We're We're going to see how this all plays out here. So many racing lines available at Miami Homestead. And we're seeing 3 different lines taken by all 3 of those different trucks. A lot of times you'll see a driver kind of put their nose into some clean air. They don't want the dirty air throughout those turns.
Already ticking them off a tenth of the way through this race. This could go quickly, and we have seen cases where they go a long time without a caution as we move a little bit farther back forward once again. Now, that 9 car is not for position, and he actually was separating our battle for the lead for a couple laps. And McManus has eventually managed to get at least one of his lap backs. Actually, that is his one and only lap he needed to make back up, so that could be critical for him.
Well, and I'm sure that he's going to pay the price in the long run if we have that long green flag run of abusing the tires early on, but it's exactly what the number 9 needed to do, right? He needed to get in front of the leaders because if a yellow flag comes out, he stays on the lead lap. And I'm looking, remember, Trevor qualified in 4th place. He's got the pace to run up front with these guys. He's just in salvage mode right now.
Yeah, we're hearing that he missed the grid, and that's why he wound up starting from pit lane. Kind of unfortunate there. Whatever caused that one, you can see him riding high while the leaders go low through 3 and 4. And also look at the gap between P1 and P2 and the rest of the field. They're pulling away quickly.
Remember what I said about that 39, how he kind of likes to hang out and save his tires for the end? I think that's exactly what the 39 is kind of doing right now. He's content to let these front 2 run away, and he's let them run away by about a 1.5 seconds, so much so that Jake Ellingson and Michael Kostek are right on the back bumper, and I think they're actually trying to take notes from this 39 right now.
You say he's willing to save his stuff, and yes, it looks like he is based on the gap, but he's up 3 positions from where he started. So he's managed to overtake cars and save a little bit here, it seems, is side by side behind him. Ellingson on the low side, Kostek on the high side, going to squabble for 4th.
And I think the other point to that, Joe, is track position. It is always nice to have if you find yourself in the middle of the pack, you know, back there in 10th or 15th place while you're saving your tires. You might also have to avoid some potential wrecks that are happening right there in front of you as the 27 and the 3 continue to have a knockout battle for what is 4th place on the racetrack. I know that they want to kind of save their tires, and going side by side might not be the most efficient. I just don't know. Is it the high line or the low line that's abusing the tires more?
Well, somebody sticks down there for long enough. I guess we'll figure out if it's taken up too much on the bottom line. Meanwhile, that was a great run from the 3 of Kostek. He gets the inside of Evans, tries to challenge him. He was on the outside before. Doesn't like the inside as much. He just can't make it.
Well, the 39 was really able to hold the number 3 down, and look at what that did. Now Jake Ellingson is to the inside of the 3 again. Just kind of flip the positions around, or I'm sorry, no, the 3 was always up on the top side. So the 27 dedicated down low, and he's actually going to clear the 3 coming off of turn number 2, but the over-under for Michael Kostek.
Yep, and that's going to give him plenty of speed and the inside, but he didn't like the inside when he was trying to pass Evans. Let's see if it's a bit of a similar situation here, or if he's kind of figured it out now trying to race it against Ellingson. Ellingson very close to the wall, though, on the exit.
And I think with these 2 kind of battling constantly, nonstop, plus the pace from Evans, look at who it's drawn into the picture. The 66 of Jamie Mullins, slowly but surely crawling back into this fight for 4th. 3rd, actually.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this is for the podium here. And he's been doing a great job of just kind of watching it all in front of him, letting them do their thing, and then eventually he'll be close enough he could use some of this slipstream to start to pull forward on them as they come onto the main straight once again, and continuing to go side by side. Looks like Michael has got at least a little bit of a handle on this lower line because he's been staying even with that 27.
And I'll say they must be buddies, or at least friendly on the racetrack, because there is not an inch of racing room spared between these 2, but I haven't seen any sort of door-to-door contact. No sort of malicious driving another truck in way too deep or up towards the wall. Just really, really good racing.
Absolutely. Oh, but there is a little bit of a wobble from Ellingson that causes Mullins to have to dive out of the way, and I think he lifted as he'll fall backwards off of that 27. He had a very good run, but whatever caused Jacob to slow up there, that definitely caused a scare for the 66.
Yeah, but the 66 did a great job in avoidance there, so I'm sure that Jake Ellingson is very happy that he did not get run over. They both live to kind of race another day, and I'm looking at the data, right? The data never lies as we check in on the 92 back here, but Brandon Evans is turning about a 33.9. Jonathan Cofield, our leader, a 33.8. It was about 0.3 of a second difference on those lap times, but it's starting to even out.
Well, yeah, this is farther down, about 14th position here is Stubblefield, as you mentioned, and that's Kaufman in behind him. That's just kind of showing himself at times in the mirror, seeing if he could get him to maybe get off of his racing line. 92 going to go up high as the 25 stays down low underneath him, and actually has such a shorter distance. He's going to be ahead by the time they come down the front stretch.
Well, and not only the shorter distance, but you have to drive the low lane versus the top lane completely differently. You can see the flames spitting out the exhaust out of the sides of these trucks. And if you notice, if a truck enters way on the bottom versus way on the top, they are lifting at two completely different points. They've got different minimum speeds throughout the corners. You really have to kind of commit to one or the other. If you can move between one or the other, holy smokes, you've got it figured out.
Drifting up the hill. Oh, very loose, though. Kaufman gathers it up, but you could see the yaw on that truck as he exited the corner. I'm kind of amazed that he wasn't easily passed by Timothy there.
When in doubt, throttle it out. It probably means he didn't lift coming off of that corner. Just some cool style points. Lay down some rubber and hold on to that position as we check in. I believe that's the 25 of James Goshen back here. I'm sorry, James Kaufman.
Yep, this is indeed the one that just had the problem. Let's see if he's a little bit better off the corner this time. Tiny little counter steer, but oh, he did brush the wall, though, it looks like, as he exited. So he's not liking that run off of turn 4 for some reason.
And remember, Homestead is not a D-shaped oval, so you really have to kind of finish off the corners here. It's not just turn 2 that you got to finish off the corner, but turn number 4 as well. You really have to be patient with your right foot, as well as those steering inputs. They actually find quite a lot of benefit if you drive that car all the way up towards the wall on exit.
Some side-by-side action just in front of them. So we watch Stephen McDonald against Regis Clark as well. In fact, this is a bit of a train that I've been keeping half an eye on. Dravick ahead of McCrary, Pendleton, Clark, and McDonald. But it looks like they are separating somewhat. And as far as Dravick, for those that are wondering about his progress, he's back up to 9th now. Still has 2 more positions to get back where he began.
Here's the 23 truck of Ryan Pendleton working down low against that black and blue 83 of Mark McCrary as we tick over, start lap number 26 of 100, just past a quarter of the way in the books. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed that we've had 2 dedicated racing lines out of Homestead. Typically, it's what we want to see, but one line always prevails. Here tonight, seems like we have 2 raceable lines.
I agree. It's looked like you could, if you, because they're all in the same setup, if you can drive it to the setup and to that line, then you can make it work. So many drivers trying different things out there according to their preferences, and each of them making it work in their own way. Gardner definitely making it work up here at the front because he's stuck to the back of Cofield ever since the beginning. You might notice that they no longer have the 9 in front of him. They repassed that lapped car. The good news for him is that McManus will get the lucky dog if we do get a caution, but he kind of needs that right now.
I think it's kind of what we are seeing. And here comes the 42 down to the inside of turn number 1. Jeremy Gardner, he is going to clear Cofield. So the white and red car back to the point. He has saved enough tires, sat behind that 53 for long enough. Now he wants to go set the pace.
And that is with them continuing to extend past 3rd and 4th. It's up to about 2.5 seconds now that they've gained on them. The 9 has said that he's not trying to race them, although he's not going to turn down a good run here on the high side of Cofield. So he'll be side by side briefly. But I did hear him on the radio saying, letting them know that he's not trying to mess them up. He's just, running his own race.
I think it's kind of good data, good note taking, especially for McManus, and honestly, these other two as well. Remember, the 9 car, even though he is a lap down that black and silver truck right in the top lane, he is only such because he missed the grid. He qualified 4th tonight. So in terms of the speed that Trevor McManus has, it's obviously on full display. He can run up front. He can lead laps here. He is just lacking a whole lap of track position.
Interesting note. We didn't see it on screen, but Plumstead scraped the wall through 1 and 2 this last lap. Just drifted a little bit high trying to run that high line and wound up kind of glued to the safer barrier. Lost a position or 2 in the process. He's down to 20th. So we'll see if he can get that back together and hopefully didn't damage his machine in the process. The 9 once again trying to get back ahead and get his lap over Gardner and Cofield, but doesn't look like Jeremy's in any mood to let him by easily.
I wonder as the 9 skates up towards the wall, I'm really starting to see these trucks kind of slide more on kind of corner entry. Corner exit seems to have cleaned itself up a little bit, but tell you what, these drivers that are charging the corner entry are actually making quite a bit of time.
Yeah, look how close he's getting up to the wall here as we ride on board. Let's see if he stays off of it. Oh, my goodness. We get so used to it because it is such a norm in oval racing, getting right up to the wall. But when you see it this way, I feel like it just drives home how achingly close they have to get.
Well, but look at the top speed that it really pulls them away from everybody down the straightaway. So maybe as the tires wear off, the less movement on that steering wheel, aka the high line, might be able to kind of pay those dividends, but you have to manage that yaw angle through the middle of the corner in order to get that drive off of the exit.
A little bit of a fight behind them. Evans and Kostek have been at it again. They were doing this earlier on in the race, and the high line once again, the 39 really trying to just ride that cushion of air up along the outside on the entry into the turn, and it pays big dividends on the way out. Look at him breeze ahead of the 3.
And it's funny you mentioned that cushion of air. It is totally a thing here in the virtual world and in the real world. We're not seeing anybody quite run close enough to the fence to really push against that, but basically what it does is you get up there against the wall and the air actually pushes back against the truck. You're kind of sandwiching the air in the middle there and actually provides you some lateral grip.
Okay, this is interesting. I thought we'd have more laps in this, but Regis Clark is pitting in. Ryan Pendleton also looks like he is in. And Drabic has pitted. He's back out. Ellingson has also been out for a lap. Now, they are in danger because if we have a caution, they will be trapped a lap down.
Here comes the 39.
Ooh, so a number of drivers pitting. Okay, I could have sworn that we'd have more laps than this, even though this is a pretty flat-out track. It's much shorter than what we see at places such as Daytona, so I'd have thought we'd have somewhere around 50 laps.
I think, Joe, what we are seeing, look at the delta lap time difference. Take, for instance, our leader. His fast lap, a 32.6. His last lap, a 34.4. So almost 2 full seconds in terms of fall off, and we're only working lap 35, lap 36. So I agree with you. I think we're only about halfway through a fuel run, but the fall off is so great. These drivers say, I want the speed versus the long run.
Willing to take the risk. The leaders will stay out. They'll lose a lot of time, but they're in a much safer position just in case of a caution. Granted, we have gone green since the drop of the original green, and we're 36 laps in, so that's quite a ways without seeing it come out. As Jewel is in, looks like Chucky Feltz is down on pit lane. Still waiting for the top 12 drivers to pit, so literally half the field is staying out.
Including our 2 front leaders, as well as that number 9 of Trevor McManus. Remember, kind of Trevor is shoehorned into this position back here. He has to stay out, but the 42, the white and red 42, as well as Cofield, they don't have to. They have decided that they want to do a long run. They've had tremendous pace so far. Remember, they gapped it out probably about 2.5, now 3 seconds over Michael Kostek, who has stayed on that same no-stop strategy. I think the car that has pitted furthest forward was that 39.
So let's think long-term then. Because we know long green flag runs can be a relatively common thing in this series. Let's say we go green from start to finish. Which is the quicker strategy, a one-stop or a two-stop?
I think you look at the lap time right now, and they're giving up about 2 seconds per lap. But remember, there's also that plateau. New tires don't last 2 seconds per lap every single lap. They have that fall off. But given 35 laps, I'm looking down here where the 39 is. It'll be interesting because does the fall off continue? Do they continue to get slower, or does it plateau and stay the same eventually?
Well, down the back stretch, looks like our leader is now catching some of the cars that have pitted as well. That was Ellingson getting his lap back and working his way through.
That is exactly what is happening out here. Jeremy Gardner still leading this race out here, clicking over to lap number 40. So really doing a great job, and has actually started to pull out about a 3/4 of a second gap over that number 53 of Jonathan Cofield. Remember, Jeremy Gardner has not won a race yet. Cofield, Kostek, and Cunningham, your second, third, and fourth place trucks, they all have found victory lane.
Well, that's telling right there, the leaders of the race right now. But Ellingson, he's, like we were saying, he's the highest driver to have pitted, and he's the only one that's gotten his lap back at this stage. Drabic, I think, is close to doing so. Yeah, it looks like within the next few laps. So he's going to be able to get out of that danger zone pretty quickly here. But in 10 more laps, we are going to be to the halfway point, and that will mark a successful one-stopper for essentially first through what looks like 10th now, because it looks like Goshen is pitting in.
Yeah, Goshen is pitting in, and if we actually look at the 07 of Patrick Drabic, this is a great example of what new tires versus old tires do. Right, the 07, the white and orange machine, is on brand new stuff. He's going to come by and drive right by our race leader, the 42 of Jeremy Gardner, and just say, I want the lap back, but here's that visual speed difference. The 42 on old stuff just can't hang whatsoever through the middle of the corner.
Interesting to see those drivers that are pitting a little bit later on this two-stint strategy or two-stop strategy, where they wind up cycling out. It's like Goshen returns in 21st. So yeah, he lost out big time on that one. He is way to the back after his pit stop, which is about 6 or 7 laps different from most of the other drivers around him, even 9 or 10 to a few of them. That tells you how much our leaders are likely going to be losing here as they continue to cycle on around, and Gardner continuing to see more and more cars get their lap back.
I think the big thing, though, is that Gardner, he's plateaued at 34.5. So the last 10 laps or so have been right on top of each other, 34.4s, 34.5. So I don't think that he's losing a ton more time on the racetrack. Those old tires, they definitely fall off quite a bit. I just think as long as the driver is able to understand that, adapt his driving style, they can at least maintain some pace.
Now, here's the other thing that we have to keep in mind because of what we witnessed at Dover. Remember, Gardner ran out of fuel on the last lap, but that was because of the green-white checkers. So as long as we don't get extra laps, hopefully is good. Granted, we found out it may have been because of the automatic refueling that iRacing has, their calculator that they did. It doesn't take into account the possibility of those extra laps. I'm pretty certain he won't make that mistake twice.
Probably not. You usually learn for sure from a little bit of embarrassment out there. And we're watching the 39 from the roof cam right now. This is Brandon Evans' car. He's right behind Patrick Drabic. So these two cars, they're the lead trucks on that early stop strategy. So that 07 Creamsicle car right in front of us, he pitted 12 laps ago. The 39 that we're riding on board with pitted 10 laps ago. So actually, Patrick working this strategy quite nicely, leapfrogged forward in terms of that track position.
Absolutely, and he kind of needed that. He had that slip up on lap 1, fell to the back of the field, maybe had to use up some of his stuff to try and push hard to gather up those spots. As we watched a little bit of Brandon's onboard there. So Patrick using this to good effect now, but there's still a lot of race left to come. Alan Marshall just announced he's pitting in next time by. So yeah, looks like he is heading in just about at the halfway mark. I assume he's going for the one-stop strategy.
42 continues to just hold 34.5 second lap times, about 1.9 seconds slower than his overall fastest of the race. But remember, these top 8 cars all the way back to Brandon Wallace in that number 99. They have not come down pit road, and kind of by our guesstimation, what would you say, Joe? Probably 55 to 65 or so is kind of when they would be able to make it to?
That would be my guess. It's an educated guess, but don't take it as the gospel here on what the drivers can do on the pit window. We'll find out soon enough because we're just about hitting that halfway mark, and then from there it's just all how far can you actually go. As down into turn 1, watching the 53 of Cofield. Still sitting behind Gardner with a few more trucks getting their lap back. That's George Jewell. And it looks like Regis Clark. And I think Regis Clark was one of the early pitters. Yes, he was, about 14 laps ago.
He's trying to regather up that track position, and there's just that other example of what new tires can do versus old tires. Cofield on the bottom of the racetrack, running his consistent pace that's good enough for second place overall. Those new tires just go driving right on by.
Now here's the interesting thing, because as we said, we've got a few drivers that are pitting later, but before the halfway mark. Alan Marshall, I think, being perhaps the biggest notable one. Now Stubblefield is in as well, so he's doing it at exactly halfway. In the case of Marshall, I wonder if this might actually be a good call, because yes, he's going to lose out to all these drivers that pitted a lot earlier, but these leaders, if they're going long, he's going to gain a bunch of time on them.
Well, and here comes Jeremy Gardner, your overall leader. So he is on pit lane. He says 50 laps right down the middle. That is what I'm going to split my strategy. Not 2 stops, just right in the middle. If I've made it this far, I know I can make it to the end.
We understand that we could hear a little bit of clutching from some of the drivers while we were on board, so maybe it is getting tight for some of them. And in fact, Cofield's going to be the next one, pitting in. Is Kostek going to join him? Yes, he is heading down. So maybe tighter than we anticipated.
Yeah, and if the 3 was able to stretch it 1 lap further than Gardner, that just allows them a little bit more buffer room than that 42. But what I'm really curious about is, where is Drabick and Evans in relationship to these group that has just come down pit lane?
They're going to be way ahead, way ahead. It is now Ellingson, your highest car, with Evans 3 seconds behind him. Drabick is in third, another half second back. So where are our leaders going to wind up? Gardner is 8th.
Joe, I'm actually taken back over here. It is not Drabick and Evans. It is the 27 of Jake Ellingson. He actually pitted a lap earlier than the 07, so he's on lap number 21 of his fuel stint. But what that did, he came down so early, he got those tires on and was able to leapfrog that track position. Right now, he is 3 seconds in front of second place.
And he's about 15 seconds ahead of Jeremy Gardner. Now he's going to start losing time to Jeremy, so he'll have to give some of that back, but he's also going to have to stop again, we believe, and should start to regain some of that time in the latter half. But who can manage to make it to the end? And based on what we saw, I don't think any drivers made it past lap 51. Is that legitimately the end of the pit window? Is that where the fuel can take you? Because if so, then it's going to be there's going to be a few drivers that pitted on lap 47 or so that might not make it.
And to talk about that, if those lead drivers were in fact clutching to use that fuel save, remember you have to have that same mentality right now. You can't forget about it for 10 laps and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to fuel save, I better start now. You have to start it at the beginning of your fuel run in order to maximize those fuel savings throughout the entire thing.
It's already down to less than 14 seconds. Gardner up to Ellingson, so he is reeling him in. The pace looks to be pretty good here. As we got, let's see, who has been a big gainer in all this? Looks like Ryan Pendleton is up 17 since the start of this race, and he did have one of the earlier stops 21 laps ago. So he has basically jumped a bunch of people with that early pit stop, and also, I'd say a pretty decent race from what we've seen so far.
And to kind of put this into perspective of these trucks that stopped early versus the trucks that just came down about a handful of laps ago, Ryan Pendleton, if he stays on the same strategy, will be coming back down pit road here in about 10 laps, maybe 15 laps at most, and split it up into a 2-stop strategy. So Ryan Pendleton, the 23, as well as several others, I think the top 6 will probably be coming here in the next 15 laps.
Yep, it's gonna feel relatively short considering we just had those last pit stops, but we have to remember that it's been a bit since we saw those other drivers in. They split that one evenly. It'll be about 33 laps and 33 laps, or maybe 34, since they'll have to do that at least one of the stints, trying to break it up in perfect thirds. Still watching Pendleton, whose laps right now are about in the low 34 range from what I can see. For comparison, those who pitted recently, Gardner is running high 32s.
And what Gardner plateaued at the end was about a 34.5. He didn't really go any slower than that. So Jake Ellingson out front of 34.2 has already kind of plateaued 26 laps on his tires. I'm not surprised to see that. Brandon Evans a 33.9, but you pointed out that 42 of Jeremy Gardner, a 32.9. So he is the fastest truck on the racetrack. I'm sorry, 32.7 out of the 53 of Jonathan Cofield that last time around. So the 53 is on a charge as well.
Yeah, he is not liking how much he lost in that the pit stop exchange. So he's trying to play catch up because he's about 4 seconds behind. And he's just overtaken Regis Clark, who is on the 2-stop strategy. So Cofield's going to have better tires and will naturally be a little bit quicker. Gardner down to about 8 seconds behind Ellingson and still gaining.
And if you're wondering if the drivers that stopped early, can they make it all the way to the end? No, they cannot. They came in about lap number 35, and what we were seeing was 50 laps with clutching in fuel save. That does not come out to lap 100. They will have to come down pit road no matter what.
Indeed, the 07 still sitting in third spot. Pendleton has been getting ever closer to him, starting to become a threat here behind them. They've also got Alan Marshall, but he is not on the same lap, so he's a lapped car. So we watch from on board now with Pendleton, looking forward to Travick coming back onto the main straight, down to 41 laps to go. That looked like a little bit of a slide there in the Cruising Classics machine.
I think so. We got to remember 27 laps on this tire stint from the car that we are riding on board with. So in terms of their run, he is towards the end of it. He's just got to hang on for another handful of laps. I'm sure this driver of Ryan Pendleton right now is saying, hey, I want the position from this creamsicle orange and white car.
You're going to see a car around the outside. That is Cunningham, who's 2 laps down. Not sure what happened with him. He pitted recently, so he seemed to be a little bit far back, but he'll get at least one of those laps back from them. While we've got the chance, before things get more exciting later on, let's talk about one of our other sponsors, Premier Racing Setups. It's the longest running setup shop on iRacing, established in 2016. They offer many different options to help take your sim racing career to the highest levels. With over 50,000 customers worldwide, they've got the tools you need to compete with the best. And a special thank you to them for donating setups for the truck series. So I mentioned the fixed setup. These are all custom made by Premier Racing Setups. A tip of the hat to them for getting these drivers out onto the track as the 42 of Gardner now bumps up to 5th, overtaking Mullins.
It's finally happened, and he's really caught kind of the group, the main front end of the pack. Remember, it was Drabick that cruised by Jeremy Gardner when it was the flip-flop, the reversal of the tires, but now it is the 42 who has got the fresh stuff. He is just going to put it right down on the low lane. Ryan Pendleton in the 23 has got nothing for him. Jeremy Gardner, 2 positions and 2 corners.
So it's been 13 laps, or maybe about 12, I think. Well, yeah, 13 laps for Gardner as he just ticked it off. And it took him those 13 laps to go from 15 seconds back to only 3 seconds back, and still looking significantly faster than our leader. But then how will things look when they try to switch back around, as he got awful close to the 58 of Doug Ellingson there?
We're going to see he just slices right down to the inside there of Alan Marshall. So the 42 now has about a 1.5 seconds of gap between himself and the next car up the road. That will be for second place. And then in front of second, it's about another 1.5 seconds up the road to Jake Ellingson, who's on lap number 33 of his stint. And I do have to say, he's staying out in front of the leader. He might go a lap down. This will be really, really interesting between the 2-stop and the 1-stop. And as I say that, here comes Ellingson down pit road.
Okay, so taking his next set of tires, you can see he's got a button box. He's hurriedly trying to get his settings how they need to be there. That always made me feel so frantic when I'm trying to make sure that I hit my pit speed lane at the right time, if I've got a limiter to get that on, and then I got to try and make sure and watch for my pit stall as I'm getting all my settings ready.
But most importantly, he doesn't overshoot that box. He's sitting there waiting, just patiently waiting on the fuel, patiently waiting on the tires, and as soon as that jack drops, he's already got it in gear. And past the green cone now, you can accelerate. You do have to use the apron here at Miami Homestead. A little bit of kind of another curveball the drivers have to deal with on the tire warm-up phase.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's slippery because we saw even with the banking, the trucks look like a handful on the cold tires. As Pendleton pitted, looks like Drabick did as well. So a couple others. I think Regis Clark was in amongst those that took his stop. Now Jacob is a lap down, so he's going to have to get his lap back, and it looks like he's actually quite close to doing that. But we saw last time he was in that same position. He did not overtake the leaders by the time they hit those 50 laps in. So I'm thinking it's not going to work if we stay green.
It'll be interesting. We haven't seen a yellow flag, right? And
Yeah.
if a yellow flag does fall, at least right now, the 27's in great position. I think the 39 is going to be coming down pit road here soon. He stays out on the racetrack at least this lap, one more lap. But quite honestly, if there is going to be a 2-stop that ends up pulling this off, I'm probably looking towards that 27.
Yeah, he definitely seems to be the best position. He's been using this to great effect so far, but I just don't know if it's enough to actually catch the leaders. Almost thinking he does need that yellow late in the race to try and even it out, especially if it'll bring out the GWC, because then poor Gardner is stuck in the same spot he was before, where he either needs to go in and refuel or suffer a very close moment on the fuel strategy.
And this is the 27 going underneath Jeremy Gardner right here. So right now, Jake Ellingson back on the lead lap. 31 laps to go here. Can he hunt down the leader, get that entire lap of track position back, and also claim the victory?
For reference, he needs a second a lap roughly, because he's 32 seconds back from the leader right now. So just a bit more than a second per lap, essentially, that'll have to be making up on average to catch him. So it's a tall order, but you never know. It's still a long race. Matt Knights is going to be pitting in. I do see we mentioned Drabic had pitted. Uh, Checking which others have also been in recently. Charles Feltz looks like he just took his stop. So he's now trying to work his way back onto the lead lap. But Jacob Ellingson is still the only driver to have regained the lead lap after those pit stops for the time being.
Well, and I'm kind of baffled by the strategy out of the 39. He has not come down yet. He's working lap number 37 of his fuel stint, and he is doing nothing but losing time right now on the racetrack. Now, he does have 6.5 seconds back to the number 3 of Michael Kostek, but there's no way that he can make it all the way to the end on this fuel run. He does have to come down pit road eventually.
The only thing I can think of is that he's praying for a caution. But that seems like a real Hail Mary the way the racing has gone so far. We had a few loose moments early, but since then, we haven't really seen many dramas out there.
No, and I'll play devil's advocate here because a 34.4 out of Brandon Evans, Michael Kostek, who's 6.5 seconds behind right now, a 34.1. So that is a whole bunch of laps that you can kind of continue at this pace as long as it doesn't continue to fall off. Now, we saw the 42 of Jeremy Gardner stretch at 50 laps and maintain that same pace. Can the 39 replicate that?
Yeah, he's taking a big gamble, but I guess you got to try and swing for the fences sometimes, and we'll see if it works out for him or not as we once again ride on board. Still liking that high line. It looks like I've seen more trucks kind of drift up to that top side lately as well. Wonder if that does preserve the tires somewhat. Oh, Stubblefield just got into the wall. Now, it looks like no yellow, but he really slammed it through 3 and 4.
And actually, the 27 of Jake Ellingson was right behind him. No contact whatsoever, but you're right. The number 92 got way up high. We're going to get this replay right now. So watch the red, white, and blue number 92. Going to enter turn 3 right in the middle of the racetrack, and just the front end doesn't stick. Keeps drifting up towards the wall and adds another black marker to it.
Bit of a strange one. He's going to pit in this time, so I guess maybe he was running out of tire on that one as he's 24 laps into this stint. Now, wait a minute. Did Stubblefield go at halfway? Let me check his lap sheet. Yeah, he went halfway. What is going on with Timothy Stubblefield? He doesn't have a meatball flag. I'm not sure why he's stopping a second time, other than maybe he doesn't think he can save enough fuel to get to the end.
Either that, or I wonder if that small wall hit did a little bit of toe damage, did a little bit of steering damage in the truck, and he decided to be on the safer side rather than the sorry side, bring it down pit road and get that truck fixed up.
Well, if he did, he was able to do it within 15 seconds, which is the normal stop for just tires and fuel. This is a strange one. I'm still kind of leaning towards my theory that he realized he wasn't going to make it, and he decided to just cover it off early instead of get close to the end and wind up having to stop.
Well, we've got over 3/4 of the race already done here and logged. No yellow flag so far, and I think that at least here in the broadcast booth, we can definitely agree that Jeremy Gardner and Jonathan Cofield, their strategy of stretching it all the way to halfway, that is the strongest of the race pace right now. And I actually have to applaud them. Cofield has closed it up to about 1.5 seconds, but you look at the next car on that strategy, Michael Kostek back there in 4th place, he's 15 plus seconds back.
Absolutely. I mean, it takes a lot of discipline to make that one-stop strategy work, and no wonder these drivers can do it with them all being veterans. And with them being veterans, they'll probably want help from the Veterans for Life Foundation, which is one of our sponsors. The goal of the Veterans for Life Foundation is to both revitalize communities and supporting military veterans and their families' successful transition back into civilian life. Through support services, counseling, and education, they provide permanent, affordable housing to veterans and their families. So a huge thank you to them for helping sponsor our events. And yeah, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen just how big of a gap it is from second on down to third, and then from third on to fourth, and from there on back to fifth with McCrary. It is very much a case of the haves and the have-nots in terms of who's been able to make that strategy work.
Well, I think the interesting part about the car that we were just watching was we clip over to the 99, Brandon Wallace. Remember, we were covering Brandon earlier in the race, and he was way back there outside of the top 15. I had mentioned that qualifying, definitely not his strong suit, but here at the end of the race, definitely showing up as the 85 coming down pit road.
Yep, so Goshen is going to get tires and take himself to the end from here. I think we just have a couple others that are on the two-stop strategy that need to pit in. Looks like Stephen McDonald's maybe? Nope, he just gave a position to Jacob Ellingson, who is on his charge back. There he is on screen now in the 27. 22 seconds back from Gardner, 20 to go. That's actually not too far off of what I said he needed to do. Still is losing a little bit of time in comparison to what he needs, but it's not dramatic.
It's not dramatic, but kind of let me explain to you the enticement of this, right? You see the new tires and you say, holy smokes, they're 2 seconds a lap faster. That is worth a ton of time. I want those tires. I want that. Well, Jeremy Gardner, his tires, even though that they're old, they are staying consistent. They are staying incredibly stable at a 34.2. While the 27 out here, he's used his stuff up. He has already fallen off now. He is a 33.4. So that last lap, only 0.8 of a second faster than the leader. So that 2 second gap of being 2 seconds a lap faster, it falls away quite quickly.
And that's not what he needs. Oh, Brandon Evans is in. So Brandon, when did he stop? Was he doing the 2 or 3 stop strategy here? He's doing, or the 1 or 2 rather. He's doing the 2 stop. He pitted on lap 35, it appears. So he is in and going to take a short final stint, holding out to try and see if we could get a yellow. It did not come. And now he needs to take the fuel. He'll go a lap down.
Curious to see, yeah, see, he only takes 2 tires right here, just as you were calling it, the short fuel stint. So only 10 seconds in the box right there compared to everybody else that's been taking 4 full tires. I think that was a good strategy call from the 39. He realized the 2 stop was not going to win him the race, kind of limit the damage.
It looks a little sketchy, though, coming off of the exit lane. He gets it up onto the banking now, though, so it looks like he should be good from here. He's got about half a lap, it looks like, to make up to Jeremy Gardner to just get his lap back and not finish a lap down. Oh, but we get a caution just after he pitted. That is gutting, and on the front stretch, it is one of our drivers off of 4, it looks like, who has found the inside wall. That is George Jewell.
And I believe the 9 of Trevor McManus is doing his best Ricky Bobby going backwards down the front straightaway there. So I believe it's the 36 and the 9 involved in this one. Our first yellow flag of the night. We watched Trevor McManus go to the inside of the 36 here into turn number 3. We've been watching the trucks really slide up the racetrack all night long. Let's see exactly what happens. The McManus, he got loose. That was a bit unfortunate. Definitely not kind of on purpose from the 9. Just saw the big old tail wag and contact from there.
And he's doing the 1-stop strategy from what I can tell. So McManus was on older tires, but we thought it was the newer tires that made the truck loose. Looks like still, even after quite a few laps on them, they can be a handful at times. So that will slow us down. Now, what other drivers were waiting for that caution, praying for that to come out? Because I thought we had a couple that were hoping to go long on that 2-stop strategy.
They missed the window. Unfortunately, see here, Gardner's going to come, and he is going to bring pretty much everybody on the lead lap with them. Got to look, the freshest tires are Jake Ellingson in the number 27. He's on pit road, but he's got 20 laps on his stuff. You have to come down pit road here.
Yeah, but he's going to be pitting in from 4th. So I'd say that didn't work out too badly for him. Didn't quite get him what he wanted, but it's if you don't lose, then I guess it's better than anything else. So it's not a net loss, but it's also not a net gain, as The drivers now come out of the pits, and for those that already stopped twice, though, this is their last set of tires. They have nothing else. Those that are taking that second pit stop still have one in the pocket.
I just don't know how much you're going to be able to do. Let me take that back. 14 laps to go. There's still plenty of racing at Homestead. In 10 laps, we see about a 1 second fall off on those tires. So yeah, if we get a GWC, a set lane in the pits might be valuable.
Well, and if you're at the back of the pack too, and let's say we get a 6-lap sprint to the end, take them, hop in, grab them, see what it does for you. Leaders will be a little bit more hesitant, I'm sure, but looks like we've got a chance for our next sponsor, as we will give a shout out to Cruisin' Classics, located in Columbus, Ohio. Cruisin' Classics has a beautiful 56,000 square foot showroom filled with hundreds of unique automobiles. There is something for everybody out of their hand-picked selection of muscle cars and hot rods. Come on down to visit the facility today, or check out their website at cruisinclassicsinc.com. McManus, unfortunately, was given the EOL for being given the blame for that latest caution. It is a bit meaningless for him, unfortunately, because he was already a lap down on that one. So this just kind of adds salt into the wound.
Very unfortunate. Definitely not the night the number 9 wanted. He was hoping for this yellow flag to come much, much earlier than when it flew way late in this race. And I think, Joe, we always see big movers here in the caution. I think that the big loser in this one, definitely Brandon Evans, the 39. Remember, we were watching him. He pitted right before that yellow flag came out. So he did get back on the lead lap. He is sitting in 12th place. The problem? He only has 2 new tires. Everybody in front of him is going to be restarting on 4 freshies.
Exactly. It's going to be rough for him. Ryan Pendleton, though, we talked a little bit about his good day earlier. Still up 16 and restarting in 5th. He's on the same strategy as the leaders. So the slate is essentially wiped clean. And now he doesn't have to worry about any sort of strategy out there. He can just try and push hard and see what he can do here on these last few laps.
And talking about pushing hard, this number 23 truck of Pendleton has one of the fastest laps of the race. The only truck to log a faster lap is Jonathan Cofield by 2/100ths of a second. So fresh tires and the number 23, it's an opportunity.
All right, we're going to get restarted as the lights are out on the pace car. And because this is our first caution, we still have 22 cars out on the track. Trevor McManus is in pit lane, I believe, taking repairs from being involved in that incident. So might only have a single DNF, and even so, Trevor might still try and get back out on the circuit to finish this one out of pride. We'll see what he chooses to do, as Gardner and Cofield will restart as they were at the beginning of this race, fighting one another on even footing. But under the pit stops, Gardner was able to stretch away. Will he be able to use that here and push to get a gap over the 53 as the green flag is out? Well, Kostek is going to try and make it a race there from the bottom as he gets a good launch from 3rd.
A tremendous whole shot launch from that 42, and here comes the 27 of Jake Ellingson trying to make it 3 wide off of turn number 2. It's the 53 of Cofield that accelerates down the back straightaway into 2nd place, but the 27 and 3 are still side by side.
And Gardner was diving to the bottom on the backstretch to try and break up the slipstream a little bit to keep the drivers from reeling him back in. Still, Ellingson trying to see if he can crack into the podium as Kostek runs low, fending him off behind them. Patrick Drabick in there as well. What a recovery after nearly losing the truck on lap 1.
Yeah, he seems to have everything kind of underneath him now on a lap number 91. But one thing is for sure out here, that 42 of Jeremy Gardner, he is taking off right now.
He's trying so hard to see if he can break away, and Cofield's picked up on his tricks. He's kind of following him at times. He isn't now, but you can see the 42 again going low, trying to break off the draft from everyone behind him as the 3 starts to pull ahead finally in the background there of Ellingson, who cuts back underneath.
Yeah, the 27 going to try to do that over under as the 43, our leader, continues to serpentine down the straightaways, just trying to break whatever draft he can from the 53 of behind. Now the 27 really slides up the racetrack, almost makes contact with the number 3 of Michael Kostek. Watch out for Drabic. He's got to run.
Oh, things are getting a little bit spicy. Will we get another yellow before this is over, or are we going to be able to stay green with a single caution as we watch on board with Patrick, still looking for some redemption this season, seeing if he could get himself a top 5, maybe even a podium finish.
Yeah, see the 27 really aggressive with that side draft down the back straightaway into turn 3. Has got to check up a little bit on the bottom lane, and now Drabic himself has a huge moment off of 4.
You could see that counter steer with his camera. He was trying to save it. Thankfully, he's still in it as he's side by side with Pendleton here down to the inside of him. Now fighting for 5th position instead of trying to pass with Ellingson up in front of them. The 42 versus the 53 is back on. Jonathan has pulled him back in.
Joe, I wonder if Jeremy Gardner blasted off on that green flag and overheated his tires trying to run away from the 53 right here. It seems like cool, calm, and collected Jonathan Cofield has reeled him back in, and with 6 laps to go, who's going to claim that top spot?
It's a big question mark. It is very few laps left. If you've got something in it, you need to use it up now. Hopefully, we've got some drivers that have saved something, because it sure seems like Gardner has not. You're right. Look at how much quicker the 53 is now. He's about a car length behind.
Really gets the exit out of turn number 4. Gardner going down the middle of the racetrack, still serpentining. Cofield all over the back bumper going into turn number 1. And remember, Jonathan Cofield won that race at Phoenix. A similarity between Homestead and Phoenix. Very low grip racetracks.
Once again, trying to see if he can just keep Cofield from getting runs on him. I mean, if Jonathan manages to get side by side, we know that it's not a done deal. You can race on either lane here, so he's going to have to fight hard. Question is, can he get there? Because he's closed in, but he hasn't attacked yet.
Hasn't attacked quite yet, but remember, Gardner hasn't won a race yet either this series. He has yet to find victory lane. Cofield and Kostek, they both have in 2nd and 3rd place here. How hard is Jeremy Gardner going to fight to spray that champagne?
And speaking of Kostek, he's still back there in 3rd, watching, only about a half second behind. Yes, he's not close enough right now, but if the two of them go side by side, that could reel them back in once again. We could almost have a 4-car battle for the win, because that's Ellingson back there in the 27. Down to 3 laps to go now.
Accelerating off of turn number 2, the 53 just inches his way closer to that back bumper of Jeremy Gardner, continuing to kind of show that he might have saved a little bit tire early on, and you see going into 3 once again closes that gap. It just seems that the 53 might have a little bit more rolling speed. What can he do with it, though?
If he's got it, he's got to start using it now. We're down to 2 laps to go. Will he try to get the inside or the outside? Can he even do that? As they head through turns 1 and 2, he drops back a bit. Low line, desired by both of them so far. Cofield not trying to jump to the other lane to see if it'll work better for him. Behind them, Kostek is starting to get closer. He's now only 4 tenths behind the pair of them.
The 3 are going to race it out for the win. They are coming to the white flag right now. It's Gardner, Cofield, Kostek, 1 to go.
It is do or die. Who has got enough left to get to the finish here at full tilt? Gardner leads Cofield with Kostek back in 3rd, but he hasn't gained as much time since we last looked. He's still at about 3 tenths back from them. That's too far. Gardner weaves to try and keep Cofield from doing anything to get by him as they enter 3 and 4, coming to the line. Now he goes up to the high side, but it's too little too late as the truck washes up. Gardner is finally gonna win in round 4.
The white and red 42 finds victory lane here in the Go Locker Racing Series for the first time here. What a race from Jeremy Gardner. Pole position led the majority of the amount of laps. And when he was in clean air, really from the second half of the race on, there was no challenge in him. Jonathan Cofield put up a valiant fight to try to steal it away at the end, but it was the night for Jeremy Gardner.
And what a pressure cooker for Jeremy in that final sprint, having Jonathan right behind him almost the entire time, burning it down here. The 42 is going to celebrate here today as he did just a fantastic job in what was likely an extremely difficult race for the majority of it, trying to save that fuel. He didn't need it in the end with that caution, but boy, he made the strategy work. While he's celebrating, let's mention our final sponsor, Red Beard Design Company. Red Beard Design Co. is a brand design and creative agency out of Greenfield, Indiana. They do brand identity, illustration, advertisements, apparel, packaging, and posters. All of GLR's logos since day one are the creation of Red Beard Design Company. So when you see GLR anywhere, you're seeing a Red Beard design. What a fantastic one here for Jeremy. Let's go through the full results. Gardner taking the victory at our fourth round of the season over Jonathan Cofield in second, and Kostak will finish third as Jacob Ellingson will be P4, and Pendleton didn't gain any more spots without setting a qualifying time, though he went from 21st to 5th. It was Patrick Drabick who recovered to 6th in the end over Mark McCrary, P7, and Jamie Mullins in 8th. Stephen McDonald finished 9th with Brandon Wallace rounding out your top 10.
Alan Marshall with a fantastic race, up 9 positions to finish in 11th. Unfortunately, Brandon Evans' pit stop strategy did not play out, finishes down in 12th. James Goshen, 13th place finish. Regis Clark back here in 14th. George Jewell in 15th. Chuck Phelps is going to be the first car one lap down back here in 16th. Chuck is in 16th. James in 17th. Kyle Plumstead in 18th. Timothy Stubblefield in 19th. Matt Knights in 20th. And a few more here. Daniel Cunningham 1 lap down. Doug Ellingson 2 laps down. And then unfortunately for Trevor McManus and Will Bethea, they did not see the checkered flag.
And in fact, Bethea looks like he was a did not start even. But Jeremy Gardner finally finds redemption after a disappointing finish back at Dover. Jeremy, congratulations. We were a little worried that we might see a repeat because it looked like the fuel before we got that yellow could have been a little tight at the end.
I'm a little mad that caution came out because I was 2 laps to the good on that. So definitely not going to be a repeat of last week. That had me mad for the next day or two.
I can understand why. And you pretty well controlled this race. Now, Jonathan gave you a good run for things in the first stint, but after the pit stops, I mean, it looked like you just put your foot down.
Yeah, I definitely had a hell of a truck all night. It rotated perfect. I didn't eat the tires up on it. I was getting a little worried with what kind of strategy everybody was starting to run, and I was like, I'm not about to get beat by strategy. I just let it play out, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to pit with 50 to go or whatever. But it was going to work out. Caution came out, and I was just like, well, here goes my luck. Because every time I get a caution thrown, I end up third or fourth. But I had to get my redemption tonight from last week. The last week was, I don't even want to talk about it.
Well, we don't have to mention it anymore. Let's talk about that last sprint, though, because you had to work for that win. Jonathan was really putting the pressure on.
Oh yeah, he's definitely putting the pressure on. I kept seeing him in my rear view them last 5 laps, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to fight him. I kept trying to break the draft, kept kind of juke him out, but I think he kept overdriving the corner, got his tires a little hot, and I think he fell off a little bit. I noticed he went to the high line, and I had a feeling that was gonna happen, but I did everything I could to hold that position.
Yeah, we could tell that he caught up to you pretty quickly there and then kind of stalled out. Well, not only a congratulations, but let us know who helped put you in victory lane tonight.
First and foremost, GLR. These guys put on a hell of a league week in, week out. Shout out to Pat and Jamie. I love everything they do for the iRacing community, the military community, just all the veterans and stuff. Jam Printing Promotions, Premier Racing Setups. That setup tonight was phenomenal. Like it was spot on perfect. Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, and Red Beard Design Company. shout out to them for all they've done for this league, and I really appreciate it.
A shout out for Red Beard Designs from a red bearded fellow, as that was our winner, Jeremy Gardner, taking victory lane tonight. Behind him was a man that tried his best to see if he could snatch it from his hands. Joey has caught up with Jonathan Cofield.
Jonathan Cofield, after finding victory lane at Phoenix, a second place to back it up at Homestead, it's got to feel pretty good here.
Oh yeah, man. Anytime you have a good run with these caliber drivers is a win in my book.
So you and the 42 went on that one-stop strategy. Was that kind of set from the beginning, or did you kind of adjust that on the fly?
I had it set from the beginning. I don't know what the other drivers were doing. If you saved a little fuel in the first run, you could make it 1 or 2 laps past. But yeah, I was kind of hoping it stayed green there because I pitted a lap after the 42. Kind of wondering how that would have played out, but we'll never know.
I did see that, and you were closing in that gap towards the end of that green flag run, but you're right, that yellow flag came out. And since that yellow did come out, what did you need in terms of that overall pace to go up and pass Jeremy up there? Your fast lap times were pretty much right on top of each other. What did you need?
I needed the top lane to work a little better. Is that coming to the checkered right there? I entered high and it stuck real good, and I seen I was closing in on him, and then when I got about apex of the corner up there, it just went to the wall, and I had to get off of it and hit the brakes, and Caustic almost got by me there. But yeah, just trying to stay with him. I talked to him a while ago. He said he was driving the crap out of it, so and I was too. But just trying to enter high and get a run off low, but he was doing no Indy 500 down the back stretch, so it was a good run by him, man. It was fun.
Well, Jonathan, you have proven yourself to be one of the fastest and one of the cleanest drivers here in this racing series. I'm sure it's not just you that does it out there. Who do you have to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to thank you at Podium and Eddie and everybody y'all got. I know y'all got a big team, man. Put on some awesome broadcast. Jam Printing Promotions that sponsors our truck series. Premier Racing Setups that does our setups. Sponsors my truck. Awesome to have them on board and get them top fives. At least I try to every week. Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruising Classics, right now Roofing, Red Beard Design Company, all the admins over at Goat Locker. This is just an unbelievable series. A lot of veterans in here. I love what they do. I love their mission statement. Um, SM Racing Products, Cofield Supply and Service, Cofield Asphalt Retention, Sim Shop, all my teammates, just everybody that allows us to come out here and have fun every weekend, man.
Well, thank you for coming out and racing with us. Like I said, you've definitely proven to be one of the fastest competitors and one of the cleanest racers here in the series. That was the driver of the number 53, Jonathan Cofield, finishing in second place tonight.
And behind them, third, we heard about Michael Kostek starting to gain a little bit right at the end. Michael, so close yet so far. Was it difficult to keep up with those two? Because it looked like before that last caution, the top two were almost untouchable.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't fire off the way they could. And then they just got so far out in front. I was just playing the fuel game and trying to make sure I made it to the end. But yeah, both of them were fast. They were in their own little world up there.
We heard from Jeremy. He said he was 2 laps to the good. How close was it for you on fuel? Was it any concern at all?
Nah, I was 5 to the good. I was good to go. I was just clutching it pretty much most of that last run. I was just by myself out there, so just clutching it and saving fuel and making sure I had enough.
Well, and lastly, I guess an important question is how are your road racing chops? Because we're heading off to Watkins Glen next time.
I don't mind them. Um, just go out there and try to keep the truck on track and keep it clean.
Well, we'll keep an eye out, see how you fare. But you still managed to get a podium tonight. And considering the talent of this field, that is no mean feat. Who helped put you up there?
I want to thank Jam Printing and Promotion, Premier Racing Setups, Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, Red Beard Design Company, Pat and Jamie for all the work they do for the league. You guys at Podium for doing the broadcast. You do a phenomenal job. It's fun to go back and watch those. And all my teammates at Bandits.
Has Michael Kostek in the number 3, who has already taken a win, but is racking up those podiums this season, and that could come in handy down the line. Well, Joey, I think we got the entertaining race that we hoped for, and if anything, I got to say that I was kind of hopeful that we would manage to get a green flag beginning to end, but we still haven't seen it.
We haven't seen it, but that is the trend in this series, isn't it? Go Locker Racing has brought a tremendous group of drivers. They have these incredibly long, clean, green flag runs, and you really have to kind of strategize around that. We saw a few drivers really get caught out today, but I think when we talk about strategy, Homestead is just kind of the sliver, the beginning of it all. Watkins Glen, the road course next week, that's going to open up the book.
It will indeed. So join us next week for Watkins Glen. That'll be Friday, February 16th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Make sure and tune in here on Podium Esports for that one. And also a huge thanks goes to those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan and Rachel Bauer. Also, thanks to the team today, Eddie, Joey, and Dougie. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.